And one of the issues that's going to be of concern for the next election, and pretty much every day leading up to then, is the Iraq War. Well, what's your view on our status in Iraq, and does it look like there's any chance we could have a significant withdrawal with President Bush still in office?
Well, there's no good answer to our circumstance in Iraq. I opposed going in the first place. I've thought that our actions were not wise. Now that we're there, we clearly have some difficult choices to make about trying to extricate ourselves. I think the best plan for going forward is the one that was developed by the Iraq Study Group. Former Secretary of State Baker and Lee Hamilton, who used to head the Foreign Relations Committee in the House. I think that they contemplate the United States beginning to withdraw from a combat role in Iraq as quickly as possible, meaning in the next several months, and then beginning to reduce our troop strength in the country. I think that makes sense. And obviously we need to do that in a way that does not destabilize the situation more than it is destabilized. But the difficult question to answer, which I don't have the answer to, is do we add to stability in Iraq by staying there, or do we add to stability in Iraq by getting out? And I think that you can make a pretty strong case that reducing our presence as an occupying power would add to stability in the country to some extent. And so I hope we can find a way to do that as soon as possible and begin bringing our troops home.
We just got the scores in, and about half of the schools in the state are not meeting adequate yearly progress. Portales had a few schools missing. Portales High School actually just learned that it was passing instead of failing. When you look at No Child Left Behind, do you see that it's working, or are there some changes that need to be made to improve it?
Well, I would say both. I think that No Child Left Behind is something I supported, and I think it has been on balance, it has been a help more than it's been a hindrance, although it's not as workable as it needs to be. We need to go back and build more flexibility into it so that states can get and schools can get recognized for improvements that they make, so there's not just measurement against an absolute standard. If there is substantial improvement in the performance of students in a school, they need to that needs to be acknowledged, and they need to get credit for that in determining whether they're meeting the purposes of the act. And there are various other ways that we need to adjust the law in order to make it more workable. But I do think that the general concept that we ought to be trying to hold students to a higher standard and hold schools to a higher standard is a good one. And so that does involve testing, and we've had a lot of missteps in the original iteration of No Child Left Behind. But this year, in fact, and this fall, we're going to be doing the reauthorization of No Child Left Behind, and that will give us a chance to correct some of these problems, and I hope come up with a bill that works much better.
And you mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned a lot of positives on Bill Richardson, particularly his governor work and his time in the Clinton administration. But how do you get that message to resonate outside of New Mexico and outside of Washington, D.C.? Because it seems that Richardson's been having a little bit of trouble trying to break into that top tier.
Well, I think that the national media has sort of determined what they consider to be the top tier and what they consider not to be the top tier, and he has had a selling job to try to persuade people he ought to be considered in that top group. I think he's made some progress with that, and I think that some polling that's been done in some of these early primary states would indicate that he has gained in support. I've watched Bill campaign in many different campaigns over the last 20 or 25 years, and He's a very good campaigner, very resourceful, very good fundraiser, so I don't count him out at all.